Well, so did the clock in my car left there.
Except where you said, I couldn't take it anymore. You couldn't? And I'm not afraid of heights, staying on the chair, just so they don't agree with doing something that's not.
Sitting in a cool chair when you're on there by yourself, for God's sakes, and then have some last minute find your dead body.
On the job. That one. Yeah, happens there. Yeah.
Okay. The clock on the wall broke behind. Call the city council meeting for April 17th. Or please rise for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Farley. Councilmember Conklin.
Here.
Councilmember Missouri.
Here.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Here.
Councilmember Brinker.
Here.
Councilmember Morris.
Yeah,
Mayor Long.
Approval of the minutes for April 3rd, 2023.
I move approval.
second,
Was that a second?
Yep.
Okay, a motion floor, a second. Any further discussion, questions? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin.
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker.
Yes.
Councilmember Morris.
yeah,
Mayor Long.
Public comment period. Comments from residents and taxpayers. Please stand and state your name and where you live, please.
Hi, I'm Rita O'Brien. I live at 13 Quiggle Avenue in Castanea. There was a major water break in my front yard, I believe August 6th, but I'm not sure of the date. And I've been working with your water department ever since to get it fixed. Now, they did fix it that night, but that didn't take care of the problem totally. They've dug up the two people across the street from me, their lines, bringing them across, thinking maybe that was my problem. First, they told me, now, when you live on a hill like that, or mountain, they told me water was running uphill. Now they tell me, they think it's up the hills, by Hunter Stover told me he thinks it's up the hill somewhere, but they just can't find it. Now, the township took a water sample, I'll say 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they took it to Magohattan, wherever that is. And they were told that that was water coming out of your system. I sent emails to Greg Wilson and Tony Stopper a couple weeks ago. I spoke to Mr. Stopper last week. Everybody's nice, trying, oh, they're gonna fix it, or we're trying, or whatever. But I think since last August 6th, there should have been somebody that knew how to fix it. And, I mean, they dug the curb up when they did, so I need a new curb. My lamp post is leaning, I pushed it back up. There's more stones in the topsoil of my flower garden. My yard does need reseeded. They did put down a sidewalk, a very nice sidewalk, but it's all blotchy, whatever they did to it, it's, you know, not nice looking like you would like a new sidewalk to look. So I thought I'd better come here tonight. I talked to Jeff Brinker about this. I just thought I needed to come here and let you all know. And I talked to Tony Stopper, and, you know, he's been very nice about it, but he said I was third on the list. I said, since last August, I'm third on the list. I'm just kind of fed up, and I thought I needed to come here tonight and let you all know about this.
Thank you. This, we could ask the Public Works Director for some comment on this.
Sure. So we tested this multiple times. And we found no chlorine residual. Last Wednesday, we sent out a sample to Pace Analytical to get a deep sample taken. We haven't heard back. We put a rush on that. Restoration, we just ordered from Bowens today, the topsoil, to do, we had multiple leaks last year in Clover Avenue and having our tank down. So we're gonna start restoration next week. And so that's a plastic pipe up there. Our leak detection equipment, it's very hard to locate on plastic. We can locate in ductile or any other metal, but we're still working on
It's still leaking.
it. There's water in the yard, yes, but
It's running down the yard. Sometimes it goes across my driveways, different amounts, different days.
Let him finish, please. Go ahead.
yeah, so there's still water in the yard, but like I said, every time we tested, we haven't had that chlorine residual. And we can't locate a leak. Last year when we dug, I think 60 feet through your yard, went up through the sidewalk.
Yes.
Couldn't find it there. We replaced the two services across the road. They were leaking at the curb box. And there's still water coming down through.
I apologize for not knowing, but are plastic ones common?
Now they are, yeah. Yep,
Pardon me?
now they are.
They are
Yeah,
now.
we're replacing everything with plastic now.
So how are we gonna find leaks if we can't find them in this plastic? Why are we replacing other ones that we won't be able to find leaks in?
We just put a PO in this morning for a plastic box.
Okay. So then we should be able to find
Yes,
leaks.
if there's a leak there,
Okay.
Do we know the time frame when you might get that in?
Can I add to that?
Go ahead.
A fire hydrant was taken out up the street. Is there a time frame when that'll be put back in at the corner of? And they're gonna put it in at the corner.
yeah. Yes, that'll also be done this month.
This month?
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? I'm sorry for what you're going through, and we are trying to work towards a resolution, hopefully more of a long-term resolution for other issues like this as well. So, don't be afraid to reach out to us again if you need to.
Thank you.
Other comments? Okay. Use of Lock Haven Airport for Wings Over Piper.
Did you want to speak to that? We do have Big River Piper.
Yeah. My name is Kevin Zigman. I live at 727 East Bald Eagle Street in Lock Haven, just down by the airport. I'm a member of the Wings of Wingsport RC Club. Every year now, this will be our 21st year that we've done Wings Over Piper, an RC flying event the first weekend in August down at the airport. Everybody that continues to come back loves the airport, loves the area, loves the surrounding areas of being able to fly our RC models at a historic site. We hope to continue on with the event as the years go on. And we're here asking for approval for another year, our 21st annual Wings Over Piper. And then if the approval happens, then all corresponding, issues we have will be with Doug Wanker, the airport manager. Or if we have any serious, we'll come back to the city if we need to be. So we just thank you ahead of time for our approval if it's granted.
Showing my age, but I was here when we approved it for the very first time. It's really been a great event, attended it numerous times. And excited about it. They've done all the proper paperwork. So it needs to be done.
Here, so you do have it, right? Your narrative.
Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Motion floor in a second. Any further discussion on this? Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Conklin.
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker.
Yes.
Councilmember Morris.
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. 4-2, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
4C, use of Petty Park by the Sunday Softball League.
The Clinton County Men's Sunday League is requesting the use of Petty Park softball fields on Sunday and occasional Saturdays from April through August. The league will provide the maintenance on the fields, and along the fence at this time as well, and I'll work with them for proof of liability insurance and any other maintenance that might need to be done throughout the season.
Do you have a motion?
Somewhere.
Motion floor and a second. Any further discussion? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bricker,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. Suburban Water Authority.
Okay. For those of you that weren't there, we had a subcommittee meeting with 3 members of city council and 3 of the board members of Suburban regarding Sunset Pines, to talk about how we could potentially resolve the situation as soon as possible. When we left that meeting, we were going to look into an option of Suburban potentially relocating that line. Just the way the layout is up there. Right now, it's currently off to the side of the road in the right of way. There's nowhere else to put it other than in the road to relocate it to be out of the way of the city's project. We had talked about at the subcommittee about potentially Suburban trying to coordinate things with the city and the city coordinating with HRI to where we would go in and do the project just prior to them starting that phase 2, or if you could reinstitute that phase 2 is the upper part.
Yeah.
Where we would relocate the line, take care of putting all the backfill back in with stones, compacting it, bringing it up to the level of the road. And then the only thing that would be left would be the road restoration, in which the city is planning on resurfacing edge to edge the road, all of Sylvan Drive.
Right.
Up to the top. Over the past several weeks, we've had our engineering firm, HRG, in touch with HRI, and we've been emailing back and forth with, Tony sent me a couple emails. The sticking point now seems to be the pavement and what the city is considering restoration of the road. If you look at the document that Tony had sent me that has the unit prices that I think this was for the part of Sylvan Drive that you're working on now.
That's phase 1, yeah, correct.
It lists bituminous leveling course, which would be base at $27.
That's not base. 11 quarts of scratch go iron or profile. That's where they get their, their depths and their slopes. I'm pretty sure I explained that to Ben Burns, your engineer, that it actually has to be trench restoration.
Well, trench restoration, if you read the definition of trench restoration, it's work that shall include all excavation to propose subgrade elevation of pavement, including any underlying materials regardless of nature, including all saw cutting and other necessary procedures required to remove and dispose of excavated materials. And if you read through the rest of the description, yeah, I mean, that is what we're talking about is somewhere between just the base Because we would be backfilling it up to road level with stone, and then at whatever point they would get to paving. That first, however deep you're going with base would have to be removed. The stones would have to be removed down 4 or 5 inches.
Right.
The base would go in, and then you would do the paving over top of that. By what? Just going by these numbers here, you know, I mean, they're. What Tony's talking about, that restoration is $132 a square yard. And in the, I mean, there's not an actual, there's nothing in here that actually addresses price wise what we're talking about doing, but it's somewhere in between those two things. Which for the length, the estimated length of the trench, that restoration at the low end, which would be that leveling course, would be $2,700. The leveling or the utility trench would be $13,200 in restoration costs. It's somewhere in between that. I've looked up what we had, as near as I can figure, and in talking to Henry's Asphalt, that should, you know, the $132 is a very high price for what we're talking about, the work that actually needs done. At the subcommittee meeting and talking with some of the board members, they were fine with the resolution, you know, with trying to come to a resolution where we're meeting somewhere in the middle. But it seems over the past several weeks, the resolution is Suburban pays for everything and the city offers nothing in assistance in any way, shape, or form.
Greg, didn't you yourself say the city was gonna pave over that, so you didn't have to pay to pave it? So that does seem like the city is contributing something. You don't have to pave that area because the city will be paying to pave that area. So that does seem like something that Suburban is benefiting from that arrangement.
Well, the sticking point at this point, I mean, it gets down to who's going to cover the cost of putting the base in for that 300-foot stretch where we would potentially replace that water main. And and then talking to our engineer and other engineers for other boards that I'm on, if you look at any entities, any similar situations like this, the easiest documentable one is if you look at PennDOT. If we have infrastructure in the PennDOT right away, and they're going to do a project, when they come through and do that project, if our infrastructure is outside of their right of way, they pay 100% of the relocation cost. If it's in the PennDOT right of way, it's a 75-25 split. Where PennDOT, since they're the ones that are requiring the relocation, absorb 75% of the cost. The utility that's in their workway only absorbs 25%. And talking to Ben Burns at HRG, and he's been at HRG longer than I've been at Suburban. He said anything that he's ran across in the past with clients of his, it's usually a split very similar to what I'd suggested at that subcommittee meeting where the authority that has the infrastructure in the way takes care of moving, absorbs all the costs of moving it. And the municipality absorbs the final restoration cost. But at this point, I mean, you're getting down to holding up a multi-million-dollar project for whatever they could negotiate with HRI, which I'm assuming there was no effort made by the city to try and come up with
We don't have
a firm price for that.
Yeah, we don't have a line item for that. I mean, you guys use Henry's asphalt for the 900 feet you replaced last year. It's the same, I mean, you could use them too. Or I meet with HRI on Wednesday to go over pavement schedule. We just don't have a line item for that, so then.
Well, you're not
That would
going
be a
up
change.
that, you
No.
wouldn't be doing that section anyway till,
Right, we only have phase one right now. We don't have phase two out. So we don't have a line item price for. It's not even that bid. I don't know how to. I don't know how.
I understand what you're saying, but I thought the whole point of the direction we were trying to move in was so you could potentially get phase one and two
It
all
was,
completed.
what our goal was that we could get it and potentially move the project along more quickly. Because of other delays that we had run into before, and if we had an opportunity to do that. And looked like we were gonna miss that window.
Greg,
So at this point, that's out, phase two is
No, not necessarily. Go ahead.
completely out of the picture for this year, or?
I hope not.
that's dependent on Suburban. So the reason that we had the subcommittee meeting, which was proposed by Suburban, was to discuss the relocation of that line. During that meeting, Suburban said they would look into finding funding for themselves to move that line. And if Suburban were able to come to an agreement that it would move that line, then the city would be in a position to bid out phase two again, of which that's part of phase two. The section that we're discussing. So if Suburban, the way you're talking tonight, it seems like we're
Closer
at
than we
least
were.
Suburban is not in a different position than before that meeting. That Suburban is still not interested in relocating that line unless the city pays for it. So if that's the case,
Well,
then
no,
we are
the
no
only-
closer to bidding that out.
The only thing in question at this point is. I mean, we would have the whole board would have to approve it, but at this point, what the board would be leaning towards would be moving the line at our expense. And the only potential cost the city would have to absorb would be that base for the trench. And having that incorporated into.
When you say base, do you mean compacted stone or do you mean the scratch coat? Because it sounds like what you don't want to pay for is the scratch coat.
5 inches of base course, asphalt base course.
Right, you don't want to pay
Is
for
it
that.
19 or
Right.
25 millimeter?
That's 5 inches is 25, 19, it can be either or, sometimes we bet it. It's typically 25, yeah.
Yeah, that was my understanding. You were gonna put the line in, the trench, backfill, compact, and put base in it. And then we would put the seal coat on the 9.5 millimeter, or whatever we're using for the top coat. We would seal it and pave it, and you wouldn't have to seal it.
Yeah, the same as last year when you replaced that 6-inch line, where you cut the base to the top, and all we now have to do is just mill and pave. You get that profile.
So what's your next step? Are you taking it back to your board again, or having you met with them, your subcommittee? Met,
Well, we can go back to the board and
give it.
if that's your position that you. Will not entertain in any way, shape or form.
That's
doing
just
any
my
other
understanding,
restoration.
that's the. the shake hands part that was supposed to transpire. And I thought it was over with, and we could move forward with phase two, so we don't lose all that funding, and it would cost us a lot of money to not do the phase two, because we had a really good price on it, on the bid. And if they accept that and keep it, then everybody wins from it. So being partners with you, really, it depends on a lot of things here. But that was up to the subcommittee, you guys to work that out. That's what that was supposed to
That
be
was
for.
our discussion. They were seeking information about funding for it, and we talked about the city doing the finished paving.
That was my understanding as well, and that was that they were gonna seek funding to do that, and that we were handling, once they were done, doing the paving down across. I don't know if that changed or what happened, but that was my understanding when I left that meeting.
Well, I don't understand, but when do I happen? What is different from what we thought we'd agreed?
Well, what I'd suggested at the subcommittee meeting was that we would go in at whatever time the city told us. We would go in, we would relocate that line out into the street. So you would have clear access to the shoulder of the road for your project. When we moved that line, we would do the normal restoration that we do any other time in the year, as we have repairs that are in the road. We just go out when the repair is done, we compact it, and it's just stone at a finished level with the road. And then we do our patching twice a year. Then at that point, when Henry's Asphalt or whoever does our pave patches, they come back through and do that base coat that we're talking about, that 4 or 5 inches of base. And the only thing that I'd suggested at the subcommittee meeting, that was my suggestion, was that would get it to that point. And we were talking about potentially trying to get grant money from
Wherever.
wherever to cover.
Tony, if UGI rips up the street out here, what is required of them whenever they're done?
Full trench restoration, 5 inches of asphalt, and 1.5 inches top on the foot, on either side of the cut. So they just have to mill a foot out from the trench. That way it doesn't bleed through.
Right, so, basically what, again, my understanding, and the other committee members can tell me different. What we were saying was that we're gonna be putting that top coat pave on anyways. Get it back to that point, we won't make you do what you would have done if you'd ripped up the street.
Yeah.
Not completely, because we're gonna take care of this part of it.
Right, yeah, we would pave over top.
Right. And that's true of any of the other utilities that we deal with the streets.
Yeah, so 2021 Spring and Fourth Street, we did a paving project. UGI replaced a couple 100 feet of, or actually some of them remain. They did the trench restoration up to the top, 5 inches of base, and then together for their contract time, they milled through it and then paved the top.
Sounded like me, Mr. Mays, to what you just explained of how you do your water line replacements and restoration is all we're asking for, just do that same thing. And then I think we would be satisfied. Just do it like you always do it, and we'll pave over the top. That will, I'll save you from having to seal it. So I think that's what you should take back to your board for a final approval. Just do it like you always do it, and like you agreed at the, and what you just suggested just now of how you do it. And I think that would be more than acceptable for us. Anybody else?
other members of council, you weren't there, but obviously, you know, you're being
Yeah.
asked now.
I think it's fair. With Councilman Stevens, you know, what you do for all the projects, do for us, and then we'll over top and.
Well, this isn't like all other projects. It's not a repair. It's not something that we were doing to enhance our system or to address a problem with Suburban's infrastructure. You know, when we go out and we dig up in wherever, it's addressing a problem, a leak of some kind. And we do whatever is required to put the road back in. If we're digging in the road, it's put back to whatever condition, and there's never been a complaint with, as far as I know, as long as I've been at Suburban, with the city or any other municipality that we've done work in. This project, this situation's a little different in that the city's coming to Suburban and saying, we want you to move a line that you have no problem with. There's no issue with it. There's no reason to move or repair it other than moving it to get out of your way. And in talking to, like I said, to the other engineering firms, you know, when you're doing that between a municipality and a utility, when it's the municipality's request, they in some way share the burden of that cost.
When PennDOT does something in the city, do they give us that kind of a deal?
No, we've had to replace, I think the most recent one was streetscape where we did storm out in front of City Hall, monument down. I'm pretty sure that we could pay for 100% and if you aren't done
Including the engineering costs for that.
It was your project or PennDOT's project?
that was our project.
PennDOT's the project, was the street.
Oh, yeah, streetscape. Within the right of way.
Yeah, what I'm saying is you're going to PennDOT. PennDOT's not coming to you to tell you what to do.
So they paved Main Street and Church and Belpont and Fairview Susquehanna Avenue the last couple of years. And we've had to remove storm and replace
At our cost.
at our cost, yeah.
I just had did a project at a house and PPL had power running through backyard or somewhere. And I asked them, would you move it out in front? Like these other poles. Well, we could do that, but you know, if we put it out here and then the city wants to do some project where they widen, we have to move that at our cost. So if PPL has to do that, why would Suburban not have to?
Greg, at this point, you are gonna go back to your board though? And have.
Well, I can go back and tell them that you're not budging off of Suburban absorbing all the costs, other than the only thing you're doing is paving the road, which you would have been doing whether we moved had to move the line or not.
Anyone differ from that standpoint? Anyone, council, please, if you do speak up.
I'm not sure I differ from it. I think we're losing sight of the basic principle here, which is that Suburban Water and the city of Lockhaven have a common interest in securing the best possible quality of life for the people that we serve. And we're tripping over our shoes when we're arguing the top about who fills in a hole. Treat it like any other hole you would have been required to dig. And that, I think, is essentially everything.
Anything else?
Can I make one other comment?
Sure.
The other stumbling block you're potentially putting in the road is you rescinded the permit fee.
You mean the exemption from the permit fee? Mhm.
So if you would like to let me know if that's going to stand to where we're going to be. Just so I can take it back to the board and know exactly what the city's position is.
Well, I think everyone voted for that, correct? Right?
Mr. Morris did not.
Oh, Mr. Morris. So if anyone aside from Mr. Morris would be interested in reconsidering that, you could bring it up to be reconsidered. Mr. Morris cannot, but anyone else here could, if you have interest in that.
I don't. In fact, I proposed it and moved it because I don't think we should treat Suburban any different than any other customer in the city. We pay for our own permits and our own system. We really need to recoup our costs also, and it's not to make money. It's just to break even on what it's costing us to do an excavation of any kind, whether it's Suburban, UGI. It doesn't matter who it is. I think we should treat everybody the same. It shouldn't be just Suburban and the customers that they serve gets a little bit of break on their thing when the rest of the city is subsidizing it. And there's a multiple of arguments, but the easiest way is say everybody pays their fair share. That's my opinion.
Well, I don't have anyone that wants, okay. I guess that's, you have an answer.
Okay.
So, anything else? You appreciate your time. Thank you for coming down. Anything else under public comments or requests? All right, we'll move on to unfinished business. 5A, any additional considerations for action on phase 2 of Sunset Pines?
I believe we can move on from that.
Okay. 5B, consideration of resolution number 2023-13.
If this resolution looks familiar, it should. This will be the third time you're addressing this resolution. The first time it came to you, it looked exactly like this. The second time, PennDOT requested that the signatories be swapped. So that was adopted again. Now they're asking for it to be reversed and put back the way it originally was. So now the 13th incarnation of the resolution is before you for your consideration, so that the mayor signs on the right and the city manager signs on the left, unlike last time where they had to sign opposite each other. So council would consider the adoption of the resolution. The agility agreement remains the same and has not changed since it was originally shown to council.
Do I have a motion?
Oh, I would be happy to move that.
A second.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion?
From the government, I'm making.
Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin.
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker.
Yes.
Councilmember Morris.
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. I see award of aviation engineering services.
The city planner is here to discuss any questions that people may have, but the city went out for a request for proposals for engineering services at Piper Memorial Airport, LHV. And Abigail, would you like to reveal the lowest or the best score, I should say?
We have 4 consultants submit, and McFarland Johnson ranked the highest out of myself, Tony, Greg, and Doug Blanker from the airport, reviewing those proposals. So we would recommend McFarland Johnson to be contacted for on-call engineering aviation services.
And what's the wish of council?
So moved. Second.
Motion on the floor and a second. Further questions, comments?
What other airports do they service, if any, in the mid-state area here? Anybody close?
I'm not sure the specifics, so you can chime in as well, but they did pick a lot up from GAI when they lost their,
They absorbed most of the
Yeah.
GAI.
yeah, I believe Both fair on there.
Post Fair, Du Bois, it's a mobile one. They actually have an office in mobile too.
Yeah.
In where?
Du Bois.
We do boys. Right, well, that's close enough.
Any other questions, comments? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson,
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris,
Yes,
Mayor Long.
Yes. 5D, award of Hoberman Phase 2 engineering services.
This is another RFP for the Holderman Phase 2, which is our Phase 3, one side of the courts and parking lot side on the west side. Because it's ARPA funded, federal funds, we needed to go out and procure engineering services. I requested a shortened engineering packet because I was also reviewing the aviation ones. But in the end, I looked at them, and I recommend Glenn Document Foreman for the engineering services. They're familiar with the project and how we're doing things and have worked on phase 1 side as well. So I'm comfortable with their rates.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
second,
Motion on the floor in a second. Any questions or comments? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson,
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris,
yeah,
Mayor Long.
Yes. 5E, correspondence.
This is just a copy for council's information. As you recall, Karen Robbins came to the last council meeting to make a request for the flag. And after that meeting, a letter was sent to Ms. Robbins, who's the Woodward Township resident, along with the steps to follow for non-individual or non-resident individuals for making requests to council, and hopefully she'll be able to go through that process and come back to council.
though I would just make the point that council does not meet again in April. And April was April. So she now has a year to work through this incredibly complicated. Well, the quick way to do it, if you're not a city resident, is to find a city resident who can proxy.
It's true.
But anyway.
Yeah, I find it interesting. I appreciate this because did not know the policy. And for those who are out here today, it was adopted in June 2021, so. Council at the time, so I appreciate the information. Not everybody knows, and evidently people in the outside community don't know either, so. Where's wisdom? If you're gonna do something, do it months in advance.
I would also like to say it is on
Yeah,
all
but,
of the request forms.
yeah.
I did not mind, it's a
But
little bit easier to read.
Yeah, thank you.
We do post it as well. If you go to the city's website, there's a little bar to click that says search the ordinances. That resolution and other resolutions are listed in the ordinance as well. There's a resolutions button there, and there's that meeting rules for city council, some other resolutions there. So we do make them available, and it is searchable as well. So
And also the policies like this are laid out, so that before you get requests, because you want to lay out your policy and you don't want to have it be a situation where you're making policy based on the request. And then people accuse you of doing it just because you don't like this or don't like that. You lay out a policy you think is fair, and then you follow that. So, and as was pointed out, it was something that was adopted in 2021. I will say that I didn't remember all the details of the policy because we go through a lot of this.
Yeah.
But, so. Any other unfinished business?
I have none, Your Honor.
Okay. New business, consideration of resolution number 2023-14.
On the topic of flags, several council members said when the request was made for the June installation, that they felt there should be some kind of rules or policy in place. So I did research what other municipalities have done, specifically some places like Boston, is one that does have a policy in place, but others as well. So I found that the most consistent list was from the United States courts. And those are included here, as well as for the US military. May is designated because of Memorial Day as Gold Star Awareness Month. And of course, Lock Haven University, which is Commonwealth University Lock Haven, I apologize, goes back to school in August. So looking up what the flags are for the United States courts for African American History Month in February, Women's History Month in March. Asian Pacific American Heritage Month does not have a flag, nor does Hispanic Heritage Month. Let's see, LGBTQ Pride and Native American Heritage Month. With a little bit of research, I was able to find that the Lenape are still with the Eastern Delaware in Oklahoma, and do have a specific Lenape flag with their partners, the Eastern Delaware. And so just for council's consideration, those months that do not have a designated flag that may fly, under council's resolution, then the POW MIA would be able to fly there. Obviously, people still have the ability through the resident and non-resident request rules and regulations to come before council to make requests to fly a flag in a nationally recognized month to continue to do so. They would just have to make the request to council in advance and in writing for council to make that consideration. But this would put some kind of policy in place that does seem to have some consistency with both the United States courts and the US military.
So to be clear, this resolution is specific to Triangle Park.
Right.
And does not preclude special requests being made.
Right.
Outside of that.
Anyone can still come forward with a request to basically replace one of these flags in one of the designated ones. So,
Thank you. What's the wish of council?
Greg, thank you, for digging and bringing this up. We had definitely had a nice discussion last time about this. I talked to different people within the city. Over time, I asked them, do you think we should have a second flag, a third flag? And overwhelmingly, majority is pleased with just having one flag. That's what I've been having a conversation with. I think the POW, the Black History Month, Women's History Month, I think they're all great. Everybody's deserving of a flag. Question is how many flags we stick up on the flagpole? Do we go 1, 2, 3, 4? Some people have talked to me and they said, hey, if you want to put a flag up on your own property, go for it. Why does the city have to promote everybody's cultural or awareness month? So I just pulled up some things as well. January's firefighter cancer awareness. I think you guys deserve a flag. It's also slavery and human trafficking prevention month. I mean, that's important. February is American Heart Month. Should we put a flag up for that? Brain tumor awareness. Irish American Heritage March is National Colon Cancer Awareness. I mean, I could go on and on. Sexual Assault Awareness Month is in April. Victims of crime. I mean, there's a lot of issues out there. Law enforcement's in net. Should we put the law enforcement flag up there? I mean, that's important. Mental health awareness is in May. National Stroke. This is one of my favorites. Zombie Awareness Month in May. June, I mean, we got the African American Music Appreciation Month. We have concerts there. That'd be a nice place to put a flag up for them. I mean, I could go on and on. I just think if we as a town want to promote different things, I think it's great, but I think sometimes we just keep things simple. Tradition's important. I mean, if we're in a war and we have POWs there, I go for it. That's called the American Flag Pole. It's not called Celebrate Everybody's Awareness Month. I mean, it's just what it is. So I make a motion that we don't have any flags on there except for the American flag. Apart from POW, missing in action, when we're in tug of war. If you want to raise another pole up there and put another flag on a different flagpole, or go for it, but I think that pole's sacred and we should keep it there because there's a lot of other issues. October, we could do Breast Cancer Awareness Month. That's important. My kid's a diabetic. He's a type 1 diabetic. There's one for that. So should I request that from a city for my son who's a type 1 diabetic? I mean, all I have to do is request it and I can get the flag up. Because
Not
we,
necessarily, it starts.
hold on, because we set a precedent. We said anybody can come and ask for a flag, and right now we have opened a door where you can put a flag on. Now we're talking about policy, about limiting flags or what flag we're gonna put up there. If we adopt this, we're saying that these are the flags that we're going to support. And I'm not saying these aren't bad flags. I'm just saying this is what the city is voting for. And I think there's a lot of other organizations and a lot of other causes that deserve recognition too. And we do not have a 50-foot, 100-foot flagpole where we're gonna put 18 flags on. I just don't think we should be running up and putting all the single ones that we point out, because there's other ones that are justified with say. Yeah, so my motion is that we just have one flag, American flag, time of war, and we do a POW MIA. Apart from that, nothing else.
Well, I don't know, first, just going the Robert's Rules of Order, we've already approved at least one at this point.
Okay,
And you already went on record during that voting no.
okay,
So you can't undo that as being on the losing side of that vote,
that's fine.
okay? The question would be, can a policy be established post that? I don't know. I guess that's possible. But I have to ask if there's anyone else who has interest in seconding that motion. The motion dies for lack of a second.
Question,
Question,
whether this resolution is adopted or not, if somebody wants to put a second flag, they still need to go through the process, right?
absolutely, yeah, that's already in, that has to do with the process for city facilities, city properties.
And we have somebody that monitors and adjusts that schedule, right? And I don't think we're getting our doors broken down, stampeded to be able to put a second flag up there. So why don't we just let it alone if we already have a policy in place and deal with it as it comes?
And I think the reason was that someone mentioned, oh, we should just have an overall policy, and that's why this was brought forward. If there's no, is anyone interested in making the motion on this policy?
I want to ask a question.
Go ahead.
What you're saying, Greg, is that you've taken federally recognized flags, months that have more diversity, more acceptance, more opening of the community, and put it into this sort of a format that says these are the kind of things that are being flown within the military, in the federal government. These are not something that we just willy-nilly thought up on our own. Is that correct?
Right, as Councilmember Brinker mentioned, you can Google February observations of what February is the month of, and you will get numerous things. What I found is the United States court system has narrowed that down to a finite list. And so that list is the one that's included in your resolution. So it isn't, National Strawberry Shortcake Month. That's not what the United States courts are recognizing. So that's why that was put into this for your consideration. And then understanding for Memorial Day with May, seemed that was Gold Star Awareness Month, and this is a Gold Star community. That seemed an appropriate one to add, because May is not one that has an official flag. under the court system, the Asian Pacific American Heritage Month is recognized, but again, there is no official flag for that. So, looking up the Gold Star flag or Gold Star service, that seemed a kind of natural thing to place into that folder, so to speak. And then usually, the city did fly Lock Haven University's flag every August as part of welcoming back students. And of course, that flag is updated now because it's Commonwealth University, but I didn't keep that here. I mean, that's happened since before me, so I would say that it's been a long-standing tradition. But this would cement in that would be appropriate, according to council, to put that up that month.
That's it. I'm sorry.
So we're back to the beginning of this. Do I have a motion for this resolution or not?
I'll move the resolution.
I have a motion for the resolution. Do I
And
have
I'll
a second?
second the resolution.
A motion, Flora, and a second. Now, Richard, you had something else?
Yeah, resolution should say flown. But I think we can get to an understanding on what that flagpole is. It's a way in which city council can communicate to residents in general, those things that we hold to be important. And I think what we hold to be important is that obviously you have the flag of the United States. And the second flag, I think, that would have priority on that pole is the POWMIA flag. Which keeps constantly at the forefront of the minds of our citizens, those people who are not with us. But there are some months in the year when that flag would cede its precedence to other matters that are recognized as being of importance and interest. And if we just take that as our operating principle, and bear in mind that the city's flagpole is not available. No, we don't sell advertising on our website to special interests, and I don't think we should use, in principle, we should use the flagpole as a message board. I think we have some very specific messages we want to get across, and the messages that are contained in this resolution, I think, are appropriate for the use of the flagpole.
Any other comments, questions?
So just curious. November, you would say Native American Delaware flag is something we're gonna hold dear in Lock Haven compared to all the other races that we have that we're not adhering to. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not saying this stuff isn't important. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is we've got a broad community and we got 6 POW flags up there. Not saying that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying there are other things that maybe other community members would like to have put on the flagpole.
And they have every right to come here to council with the proper paperwork and the proper form and ask that the flag that we say, this is what we're flying this month, be replaced
Take
with
it down.
X, be replaced with X because this is important to us right now. It's about diversity. It's about saying we welcome everyone and that we recognize our heritage. We value our heritage, we value our past, and we see that we are a community that is looking forward, not just at what was, but what can be.
Right.
That's how I see it.
I didn't say that it wasn't. I'm just saying there's a lot of things out there.
There's
that we can
a
put up there.
policy in place for people to come forward and ask for that. Citizens of the city of Lock Haven.
So what you're saying is if we go with these 12, anybody in the community can come up and ask in October and then I'm sorry, in September, and asked to put a breast cancer awareness, we will definitely do that.
No, they
Didn't
can
say we
come,
definitely
they
do.
come to the city, they come and they present their case with
But they-
vote and they
but
ask.
their vote isn't heard then. We are telling them, these are the 12 that we will adhere to, but if you want to put one up there, you gotta come ask us and we'll tell you yes or no. But we're telling you, this is the colors we're flying. That's what we're telling you. If we say, well, these are the 12 we're gonna adhere to, and I'm not saying these aren't bad. If we say these are the colors that we're flying, just like a sports team, Central Mountain, we're putting out royal and white and Carolina blue. We're gonna put the Wildcat. Why isn't the Wildcat on there in September? We could do that in September. Why don't we do Wildcat Central Mountain? There's a lot of things we can put up here. And if a parent wants to come in, say, I want a Central Mountain Wildcat flag in September, we have to say yes, because that's the precedent what we're setting. Because that is part of the community. And I'm not saying that's wrong or right, but that's your right, because we're telling you this is the colors we're gonna flag. And then you get to decide. Because, well, you can trump us. And that's fine, but that's our policy. We vote on this. These are colors that we're saying. These are colors, the Raiders, the Steelers, these are our colors. And if you want to put a different flag on in June, what happens if somebody comes in June and says, I want to, in January, come and put a different flag on in June? Then we have to say yes.
No, we don't have to say yes.
Say, we don't have to say yes. But that's the precedent I'm telling you is that we're setting. And that's my position.
I beg,
Your position's clear. Thank
I
you.
beg to differ. I think if we have a resolution that says, essentially restate what I said before, that the city flagpole contains two flags. One of those flags may on occasion step aside to allow these and these only exceptions. I don't want to think that city council is in the business of sitting here every week making value decisions on whether Strawberry Shortcake Month should be recognized or not. The answer is it shouldn't. If you're not one of these, you are not recognized. If you want to be recognized, stick your own flagpole up. See?
Law enforcement,
Excuse me,
first responders, sorry, I'm in.
were you finished?
Yes,
If you would like to speak, please state your name and where you live.
Linda Butler, I'm a city resident here.
Thank you.
So you pointed out law enforcement is on one of those months, sorry, I don't remember which. First responders are important, our fire people, our medics. So if they're not on that list of recognized, they might not go up on a flag if it's important to us.
You can come to council, there's a form to fill out to request. Bring your organization, bring your information, and that information will be brought to council. To be considered.
Be considered.
This is an organized way of dealing with flags coming from organizations that may or may not be recognized, or from something that may or may not be nationally recognized. This is just this is a way to simplify, but we do have a form, and I think we've been pretty flexible. If you have an organization that wants to fly a flag, you have to fill out the form, submit a request, and ask.
Hi, Bree Reynolds, Lock Haven City resident. I would just like to say that this was not an issue until the queers wanted their flag flown. And it was important to us, so we put a form in. And now everybody wants to do it because some people don't like it. So it was important to us. We put a form in, we followed the rules. Now it's a thing. If you want it in, fill out a form. There you go. It was very easy, by the way, to put a form in.
If I may. Just no issue whatsoever with any flag anyone wants to fly, so and that's I'm just saying that if you set a precedence of this XYZ, is there room, I guess is the question. Is there room for an organization to come in and say, we really want, this is important to us?
There is, based on this, there's room for you to do that. And we use our strategic plan to see if, does it fit that? And part of what we're trying to say is, we don't care who you are, who you love,
Right. Oh, for sure.
what religion, if you were gonna come here and respect everyone, follow our laws and be a good part of the community, we want you here. We want a good community. And that's really what we're looking at when we look at these types of requests. Does it fit that? If it fits that, then chances are it's gonna get a yes and we can represent that. And then, you know, I think it's being made into more than it needs to be made into to a certain extent, but we try to, and this, I think to a certain extent, this is kind of what I was talking about earlier. We put a policy in place before any requests came out, so it wasn't like we were trying to hold anybody back or do anything. We laid that out. And it's being questioned in some ways, so we're trying to refine it somewhat. I think, is that a good
Absolutely,
description, you
that's a
think?
good description, Mayor.
So we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. We have another comment right here. Go ahead.
So these are the 12 flags that'll fly as the second flag unless somebody applies and asks for permission to fly something else. So we don't have to come back and say, each one of these months have to come back to us and ask again. These are our
I think that was the point of
the
this.
standard flag unless somebody asks.
Correct.
Right? Okay. That's easy.
That we're not having 3 or 4 flags.
No, it says one, it says secondary, so there would be only the American flag and one of these. And it's specific to Triangle Park. Okay, so we are clear on what the motion is. Rick had, Richard, please, Rick had already asked for time. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I'm just doing this as a process of educating the folks in the room. And because Councilman Briefer brought it up. November being Native American Awareness Month, and this particular ground that you're sitting on, folks, was acquired not ethically or morally by the Lenape, from the Lenape people. When the Delaware claimed it was their land prior to this union of those folks together, the Lenape were here. The deal was made with the Delaware, who did not occupy this property at that time. This was Lenape property, was taken, like I said, less than ethically, less than morally, from the tribe. And at some point, we need to make people aware of that. They took far better care of the environment than we have, and we should be well aware of that. That's it. Thank you.
Richard, if you have something short and succinct, you can go right now.
When have you ever known me be short?
Well, that's why I'm letting you know. If you have something short and succinct, I'll give you some time. Let's go.
Well, because I think Dr. Brinker and I may, from slightly different starting points, end up in the same place. I don't think either of us want City Council to be in the position of having to make value judgments every now and again as to whether a flag should or should not be flown.
Time's up, Richard.
Which was why I was more in favor of the resolution that says it's these 12 flags. And just to give you a flavor of the dilemma, we were asked to consider last time a specific flag. It was purported to be the Christian flag being flown during Face Month, and the proposal was from the Concerned Women for America. That flag is only available through the Concerned Women for America. And therefore the question is, what were we actually supporting if we through that flag? We're supporting the Christian religion, or are we advocating for the concerned Women for America? I don't want to be, and I don't want council to be, in the position of having to make that judgment. So let us therefore decide what we think that flagpole stands for, and let it stand only for that.
That would be a totally different issue right now, Richard, because there is a motion on the floor for this specific resolution. If this motion fails, then you're welcome to bring up another motion. I have a motion on the floor and a second. I think it's been debated fairly thoroughly. Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Conklin.
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker.
No.
Councilmember Morris.
No.
Mayor Long.
Yes. Okay. 6B. Authorization and solicit for bids.
Concord Public Finance is in a position if council authorizes it to solicit for bids from financial institutions for the 2023 A and B series. The A series is city-only projects for the improvements to the water system, including wellfield land and easement acquisition, and the replacement of 2 bridges in Zindel Park, both of which need to be replaced in order to enable Keller construction. And then the other is shared, which is the permanent finance for the portion of the supplemental water wells that has already been paid, which is $1,025,000. And then oil phase 1, the city has a contingency. Penvest loaned the city $5 million. And the total final project costs are expected to be $218,848 more than that. They may or may not, that is the contingency. So if the city did actually have to spend that money, the city would have the money through the 2023 B series. So Concord will, with council's authorization, go out for proposals from different banking institutions, look through those, and provide at the next meeting of council. Actually, no, it would be the second meeting in May 15th, that Concord would come back to you with their recommendation from those proposals. And you would make a decision then as to whether or not to actually borrow.
You have a motion?
Can I ask a question?
Well, let me get the motion on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor, a second. Okay, question.
All the things that you're talking about. What is actually, it was circled on here, given your agenda by one of the board members. Out of whatever you're potentially soliciting for bids, what is there anything beyond the 5 million that was the original part, the current construction that's gonna be where you're gonna be requesting or requiring that cost to be shared by Suburban?
Yes, the Series B note. So that's, so far, the city has to permanently finance $1 million that it has put into the exploration of the wells and pipeline. And all phase 1 contingency, if the city did have to draw that, that's the $218,000 that's above the $5 million that Penvest loaned. And there,
Because Suburban was not, I mean, when we did the 5 million, when we agreed to the $5 million, it was in agreement that was all Suburban was in agreement to at that point. And any future funding where there was going to be a shared cost between Suburban and the city, or where the city was going to be asking for Suburban to share in that cost proportionally with the city, that we would be presented with.
The agreement
Whatever
says
you're
that
doing.
Suburban and the city both agree to the wells, to Keller, and to Lowell. So these are part of those projects that the 2 entities have agreed to share the debt service. Those are the projects that were pre-approved in the cost sharing agreement.
Any other questions?
The cost of sharing agreement that was signed was for the 5 million, right?
No, for all of those projects I just listed. We're not doing a new cost sharing agreement every time that there's an additional portion of the project. That cost sharing agreement lists all those projects in it individually. So these are part of that whole.
Any other questions, comments?
But you don't supply us with that information prior to, just as a good faith thing, to let us know what we're potentially liable for.
I do, in fact, I've given the filtration authority, who is the one actually liable for it. The project list that includes all of those. Many projects totaling over $27 million. I've also given that to Suburban, individual board members, and you. So you can't act like you don't know that there's $27 million worth of projects going around. You have the document that shows how those are broken down between engineering cost and by year. So those have to be paid for. And the way they're paid for is the city takes out debt service, and that debt service is repaid under the cost sharing agreement that Suburban and the city entered into.
Other comments, questions? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker.
Yes.
Councilmember Morris.
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. 6C, authorization for the city manager to sign the necessary paperwork to enter into an agreement with BWA.
Like the executive session that was scheduled for 6 o'clock this evening and was canceled, this topic is postponed until another council meeting after legal counsel has additional time to review recommendations.
Okay, thank you very much. 6D, notice of employee promotions.
Have some good news coming out of Public Works. The former water foreman Devin Bechtel applied for and was transferred to the position of sewer collection foreman. After the former foreman left for the CATA position. And former pipe fitter Hunter Stover applied for and was promoted to that vacant water foreman position. And Stover has passed his exam for DEP drinking water class E and is awaiting the DEP board meeting so he can receive that certificate. Semi-skilled laborer Brian Scherf bid on an open position in wastewater, so he'll be transferring from wastewater to water, or from water to wastewater. And semi-skilled laborer Brent Broomgard bid on and was awarded the open semi-skilled laborer position in water vacated by Brian Scherf. So a lot of one person leaves and there's a lot of moving around. Yeah, so in the end, that takes us back to a vacant pipe fitter position. So the city will be advertising for the pipe fitter position in the water department. And it'll be advertised in the Lock Haven Express and also on the city's website. So if anyone knows anyone who would be a qualified pipe fitter, please have them fill out an application and come on our way.
Okay. Anything else under new business?
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Yeah, we have a bunch of FYIs, correspondence with economic partnership.
I would just draw your attention in the correspondence, the second page of the letter from the Clinton County Housing Authority to City Council. The very last sentence of that is very nice. It says, this is from Jeff Rich, Executive Director, and then on a side note, Cindy and Abby are assets to Lock Haven and the community. Both are here this evening. Thank you very much.
Oh, and it says, and Greg.
It does say Greg, I know you didn't want to, what's your new name?
One doesn't want to toot their own horn, but I think it's very nice that Jeff did. Let Cindy and Abby, both of whom do a great deal of work anytime somebody is interested in doing a project, whether like we have now, some new construction for fueling station or whether it's new residential units, which are also happening. So there's a lot of activity happening behind the scenes, and those two are almost always involved. And we all get to see the finished product, but a lot of work went into that. And so thank you to both of them for the time they put into that.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything else to bring before council this evening?
Before we move on from that exchange of correspondence, I can't just let this go. For people who haven't seen it, it's basically started with a letter from the Kent County Economic Partnership saying that their operating board has voted to oppose the proposal to turn 426 Belfont Avenue into affordable housing unit. The letter was, one, it was out of time. Two, it did not assert any compelling interest by the partnership in that issue. It made the standard objection that you really should do this somewhere else. And because it's not appropriate, and that is a value judgment that is unsupported. Frankly, I think that the Housing Authority devoted more thought to responding to that letter than it deserved. It seems that wherever the Housing Authority proposes actions that will at least partially alleviate the housing problems that we have in this county, someone will pop out of the weeds and say, you can't do it here. And I don't believe that that reflects well on us as a community. Why would anybody ever want to deny someone the opportunity to have a secure roof over their heads? We have haven in our name for a reason. We should live up to it.
Steve, you wanted to say something?
May I respond to Richard? Setting on the operating board of the partnership, it wasn't the discussion of being anti-housing. It was better utilization of that at 426 Belfont Avenue. Since that's all businesses along there, to lock down the residential situation in the middle of that, when you have an opportunity to create businesses and jobs, and people then can go and buy houses and rent and do those type of things, that it was better utilized for something else, not anti-housing authority or anything else. And I know they have a hot ticket of $816,000 is burning a hole in their pocket, and they have deadlines to spend that money. So they're finding any place that they can to go to spend it. I think if they would have come back to the Dickens School project, instead of asking us to change an ordinance for the whole city with the revisions that they had proposed, they might have been able to utilize that building, but they opted not to come back. So, but, well, the neighbors might not have, but they would have satisfied probably the zoning requirements. But not for the whole city. Not for the whole city. But anyway, the economic partnership is not being vindictive about that. They just thought there could be a better use. And there was,
The property sat vacant for 3 years.
well, because they asked too much for it. It wasn't the market value, it was way inflated. So there's other reasons on why it sat vacant. In fact, I know the people, Mr. Donut wanted to buy it, made 2 different offers and was rejected twice. So that's just a rebuttal, but I do have something else.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm not finished with that yet.
We did this.
Now you've taken on the operating board now has the authority to tell a private property owner how he may dispose of his property.
No, they all said that they weren't in favor of making it housing. And they just took a stand, was all. They didn't, that's why there are no details, and that's why it's just a generic thing to say, we're in favor of it or we're opposed to it. They were happen to be opposed to it.
Yeah, and they're opposed to it so that the owner can continue to keep the place vacant until somebody wanders along to steal it.
All right, they gave their opinion. You leave your, and appreciated your opinion, you've given.
I'm just trying to clarify.
I understand. No, we're fine. Move on to the next one, please.
I would like to ask staff and the Director of Public Works to look into the red, yellow blinking light at South Jones and Baltimore Street, to see the viability of it. Whether it's necessary or we can do the same as we did on First and Main, and maybe eliminate and reduce some costs. So if you could look at that for us and see about the elimination
It
of
was
it.
largely there because it was a school.
The school's not
I'm
there
pretty
anymore.
sure we discussed this with the prior police chief.
We did look at it 2 years ago, but we can take a look at it again.
Okay, thank you. Oh, and I wanted to let everybody know that the world famous Kiwanis Spaghetti Takeout Dinners at Dunstown Bar Company on Wednesday from 4 to 6:30, so please support it if you can. Thank you.
I was like coming through it.
Well, I can sell you tickets.
We don't go in here.
It's all takeout.
Okay. Anyone else have anything else to bring before council? Your name and where you live, please.
My name is Amanda Pease and I live in Lock Haven. I just want to put my opinion out there that I am not for and I do not support the part-time for the local police officers. We already have part-time in all of our surrounding counties and I understand it's, I believe the article said maybe 4 hours, that's not gonna be covered, but Pennsylvania State Police is already covering a wide range of area and they are restricted to how much they have as well. So if they're responding to 2 or 3 different calls, depending on how many are on shift, then that's gonna be a longer response time for anybody who needs it. And everybody who's calling, I would say most of the time, everyone that is calling 911 is for an emergency. So it is best that we have these people and utilize them as we should, because we are a rural community and there's a lot of space in between all of our different little towns that we have in Clinton County. And I just believe that it's not a very good decision that would be going forward.
And you live in the city of Lock Haven.
Yes, I do.
I want to clarify that. Thank you, appreciate it. That's not a decision that's been made, and it's not even necessarily like definite that it would go in that direction. Okay, so, anyone else have anything for council tonight? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
You do.
We are adjourned.